Welcome back to Cal Park Bros. Jason and I are fresh off the segment discussing the Phase 5 and Phase 6 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the third and final segment, we're going to cover something pretty heavy. And Jason and I have kind of stayed on the sidelines for about the last month or so with the Roe v. Wade fight in the Supreme Court. And sometimes we do that because, one, we don't feel like, it's really our time to talk about it. And other times we feel like, wait, now is absolutely the time to talk about it because something else happened, because there's been a development. And this is one of those times. And Jason, this is in your neck of the woods in Indiana. An Indiana doctor was effectively being doxxed and harassed for giving an abortion to a 10-year-old girl. Now, what's relevant about the fact that, of course, we're talking about a abortion in the backdrop of Roe v. Wade being repealed, but also this is a 10-year-old rape victim from a different state outside Indiana. And the doctor's name is Dr. Caitlin Bernard, by the way. I want to make sure I get her name right, put some respect on her name. And basically, as soon as a name could be tied to this act, the wolves kind of came out. And the big fight is really about the Indiana Attorney General, right? Who basically started, putting and the Attorney General. I want to get his name right too, because I think that's important as well. These are public people. Or at least one of them was public, or in this case, it's a public official using a healthcare provider, as fodder for his agenda and others' agenda. Because I'm sure if push came to shove, if Dr. Caitlin Bernard had her druthers, he would have preferred to remain anonymous. Just like the 10-year-old Ohio girl that she was taking care of, Jason.
Well, I don't know if that girl's name's been ever put out there. I'm sure, because she's still a minor, so I'm sure it probably hasn't. Now, obviously, somebody knows who it is, which is what it is. But, and that's kind of what the Attorney General from Indiana has been saying, that apparently Caitlin Bernard's the one who put not the girl's name out there, but the girl's story out there in the public. And so I think that's kind of where some of the fire towards the doctors come from, is really that. Kind of like she was using the girl's situation for not just Dr. Bernard's own agenda, but probably all abortion doctors everywhere's agenda. Again, I'm not saying that's the case, but that seems to be part of what Mr. Rokita is talking about. He also mentioned that he questioned whether or not Dr. Bernard reported properly to the Indiana. And forgive me, I had the name of the group that she reported to. I'll find it before the segment's over. But he questioned whether or not she properly reported the situation to the proper authorities in Indiana for this type of situation. Bernard, of course, has said, yes, I have. And that organization's actually come out and said, yes, she did report it. So then it just falls back to Rokita saying, hey, what's the point of making the situation public? Now, I'd imagine Mr. Rokita is probably somebody who's probably in favor of abortion restrictions, which as of right now is not restricted at all in Indiana. Although, again, that's could change here later. Indiana has some appointments on the books when it comes to reviewing that situation, to which it's like a change. But yeah, that seems to be really the issue with Mr. Rokita, from Mr. Rokita. And even Dr. Bernard is still considering filing a defamation lawsuit against Rokita. And even apparently, too, which seems kind of weird, that supposedly the investigation that Rokita is looking into hasn't even talked to Dr. Bernard at all. So, I mean, even that seems like BS to me. I mean, this article that we're referring to, articles or came out around the 26th and 27th. So, not really sure what they're waiting for. If they're going to talk to the doctor, seemed like she might have been the first person they talked to, after maybe the people where she submitted that, report to. But they haven't talked to her. Again, that's as of July 27th. That could have changed. But yeah, I don't know anybody that hasn't, well, for the general public and civilians, I don't know anybody who actually would have an issue with this girl getting an abortion, seeing as how she was raped. And even the majority of the states that have abortion bans still have that as an allowance for you to get an abortion, and it's okay. Is that they may have some parameters on the time frame? Who knows? But the reason why the girl had to go to Indiana is because the time frame in Ohio to get an abortion was 6 weeks, and by the time she found out, it was like 6 weeks and 4 days or some shit like that. Excuse my language, but it is what it is. So again, the people in general don't have a problem with this. I'm sure there's those nuts out there that still will. I'm sure they'll still say, "Hey, it's still a blessing from God. You still had a kid."
Are you going to take care of that kid? Not you, but people that think like that. No, you're not. That's always been my sticking point. I've had I've had several discussions with women in my life, um, and there's nothing pro life about that stance because you're basically telling the person who has to carry this pregnancy to term that your life isn't important.
Well, I don't know how far down this rabbit hole we wanted to get into, and I hate calling it a rabbit hole. Um, but again, I yeah, that is a very good point. I know people who are pro-lifers; they do focus a lot on the rights, quote unquote, of the
The unborn. Except
go.
once they're
Yeah,
born, they don't have that same energy. That's why I'm calling out bullshit on that. Like, think about Jason. Think of this. You you have so much banter and politicking and lobbying about this unborn life. But as soon as the kid gets here, they don't give a shit. Why can I say they don't give a shit so boldly and so confidently?
please share.
Have you seen some of the investment that these politicians and these people are willing to make in social services in their local municipalities?
Like, what do you mean?
I'm talking about look at what those individuals are willing to invest. Um, when social services like foster care, for example, saying, "Hey, we need more support. We need more support staff out here." For Christ's sake, the kid up here by me in Crystal Lake, AJ, pretty much left to die with his psycho ass parents.
I don't think I was fully aware of that story.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can share. You can share as much as you want about that, or not. It's up to you.
Listen. That's not something we got to fully get into today. But yeah,
Fair.
that was absolutely a social services fail. And so I bring that up not to besmirch that child's good name, but I bring it up to bring an example of this is what happens when you have people that say that they're allegedly pro-life, but then you have an example of, oh wow, clearly these services that should be looking out for children that are actually fucking here, living and breathing, the system let them down. Those systems are built up and propped up by people slinging the same bullshit every year, saying that they're pro-life. That's why I'm calling it out, Jason. Because AJ was special because he was AJ. But the sad part is there's a million stories like him. He was unique because he was a kid that could have been saved. But sadly, there are a million stories like that in America.
I also, as like Terrence, I will definitely go on wax here and just go ahead and say that I personally, for me in my life, I would not be in favor. And generally, again, I'm not obviously not a female, but in my situation, in general, all things being considered, I likely wouldn't be in favor of getting an abortion in my situation. However, I feel like that's me. I'm not going to tell anybody else what they can or can't do. So I guess in that regard, I'm a pro-choice. Do what you want. Do what's best for you in your situation because you and your situation, guess what, is you and your situation, ain't mine. Now, obviously, people can have their opinions, whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, nothing wrong with that. That's fine. It's when lawmakers are stepping in and restricting certain things, that's where the problem comes into play. Now, also the fact that there's going to be 50 different perspectives of what's allowed and what isn't, also is another problem. But again, we talked about that before. But but I agree with you to the point of that people do care about the unborn, which again, nothing wrong with that in general. But keep that same energy when the kid becomes alive, or these kids become alive. Like people might want to throw out, "Hey, adoption." I watched a video, several videos about people getting interviewed on the streets from people in general, and people who might want to say, "Hey, adopt this, adopt that." And then the interviewer turns around and said, "How many kids do you have?" And they'll say, "How many? How many of those did you adopt?" And every single one of them that was published said none. You mentioned foster care. Same thing with when it comes to the adoption system. People might say that they should adopt people that should adopt, but no one ever does. They're too busy having their own kids, which is what it is, and your choice. But don't preach to me about adoption if none of your kids that you have are adopted. You know, um, so. But the main thing is that every situation is different. I know it's probably easy to put things in the box. I know people want to say that rape and incest is a small percentage of abortion cases, which may be true. They want to say that 99 point whatever are just people that just supposedly didn't want their kid, which again, how do you know that? So, you
Right.
know,
That drives me insane. How the fuck would you know what the percentage is? And more importantly, if it's a number greater than one, son of a bitch, not you, whoever references that, it matter. Who the fuck are you to tell me that what's happening in my scenario is somehow minuscule? This is the only scenario I'd have to deal with. So don't try. That's why I'm ready to blow my top about it, because basically what they're doing is they're minimizing what's happening to that person in the individual situation. Basically, no matter what, they don't give a fuck. They just don't want it to happen. Whatever the rationale is, and that just shows you how insane it is.
I was going to jump in. I don't know if you're done, but
Oh, I can
yeah,
keep going. I can keep going, but I need you clearly I need to blow off some steam. I want you to chime in because I done said my piece. I know how listen, I may not ever be able to 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 bring life into this world, but I certainly know how I would feel if I was that 10-year-old's parent.
facts. Um, Another thing people might say is that abortion shouldn't be used as contraception. I do agree with that. But the people want to say that also they should make a choice, but they should choose their actions differently, you know, based on the possible consequences when it comes to, they might say, well, if you know having a kid's a possibility, maybe you should stop having sex or stop opening your legs, as people put it. Okay. That premise wise, I get it. But at the same time, is that really, unfortunately, and maybe I hate to say this, in 2022, is that really a practical thing or probable even for that matter? So yeah, people probably could make better choices and better decisions, but that's in the case of the pre situation. But when we're in the post situation, yes, maybe pregnant woman A should have closed her legs or wore better protection, blah, blah, blah. But now that we're in situation B, maybe we need to figure out we shouldn't be stopping this person from doing this because, again, there are different aspects of this that aren't just health, based off health. Sometimes it's financial. Sometimes it's other things, in situations like that. Maybe when person A got pregnant, they had a two person household when it comes to mom and dad. Then maybe something happened. Maybe dad backed out. Maybe mom wanted to back out, or whatever. And situations change. And that's the thing. When it comes to abortion, it's not always black and white. It's not always, oh, well, it's beyond 6 weeks. Oh, can't do anything. Or, oh, you should have closed your legs. Too bad. What rape or incest? Too bad. Oh, you're healthy. There's no problems with you, the mother. Oh, too bad. It's not always black and white. There's always so many other factors involved with this that you don't know. But again, the problem with that is, like I said earlier, like you alluded to as well, I don't know this person's situation. I don't know what decision they have to make because number one, that's between that person, their family, and their physician, not you. And again, like you always say, not you, Terrence, but not you, the SOB or whatever that wants to say, "Oh, you can't have an abortion," or wants to demonize people that because they do. Again, I might not have the situation do that for myself in a given situation. You over there might not do the same thing in the situation. That person over there might, but guess what? Person D might, because it's their situation and their, what's going on with them. That person A, B, and C have no idea what it's about. All you see is person D is going to get an abortion. All that person's a piece of shit. Again, not my words, but again, the words of certain others. And that's the one thing people need to remember is, and when we're talking about this especially, that I don't know the situation why this person is even considering doing this. Most people, once they get pregnant, it's probably a happy situation. They don't want to do that, but they're in a situation where they feel like they need to. And again, who the F are you to tell me or anybody else what they need to do or not do? Because you're not in my situation. You're looking at their situation from your perspective in regards to what you might do. But the thing is, I can sit here and say all day, like I've been kind of hemming and hawing about on this show. I can say right now that I probably wouldn't, encourage the person I was with to get an abortion. Or I might be hesitant to allow them to get one if they wanted one. I shouldn't say allow because, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm glad you circle back to that.
But I say that now because I'm not in the situation. So, like we always say before, I'm going to let you jump in here. Until you're in the situation, you don't know what you're going to do until you are. You can say all you want that you won't, and maybe that might be true until you change your mind because you're in the situation now. So,
yeah, right on, Jason. Yeah, my last thing, and then we can wrap it up.
Speaking of wrap it up now,
Jesus Christ, how fucking helpful is it to try and say, well, you should have done this after the person is pregnant? What the fuck am I gonna do with that? Like you're listen, you weren't in the fucking room. 99% sure you weren't in the fucking room. So you're making all sorts of assumptions off the rip anyway.
Yeah, and let's be honest, unless you're doing abstinence, which how many people are doing that? Let's be real. How many people are doing abstinence? So even if you are using protection, it's not 100%. Condoms break, birth control pills fail, IUDs don't always work. So yeah, unless you're doing abstinence, which I know people are going to say that, but again, unless you're doing abstinence too, then don't be a hypocrite telling me what I should have done if you're not doing the same thing. So I'm going to say, if you're that person that's going to be that kind of hypocrite, you can go blank yourself.
This is a story or essentially a segment for another time, but that sort of talk also explains why health education in this country is so fucked.
No comment.
Yeah. And on that note, that concludes our segment on the Indiana doctor that, kudos to her, is not backing down from the Indiana Attorney General related to performing the abortion on a 10-year-old girl. And with that said, we'll wrap up the show.